Shanae, there is an important meeting going on right behind you, and you're going to be participating in this meeting.
Yes, this is our Rules Committee meeting. This is where the council decides which committee to put the agenda items that they've introduced, so that we can have further discussion and eventually, move it out of committee and back to the council floor for a vote.
Now the issue here is affordable housing. Which
Well,
committee they should be?
I introduced changes to the current affordable housing ordinance to change it from 10% to 20% and some other changes, but that's the most significant piece. And being that it's a current ordinance that is a law in Yonkers locally, we really should be putting this item back in Legislation and Codes Committee because that is the legislation it deserves to go in, and that's what I'm going to be advocating for. I want to make sure that we have a fair process of going through this ordinance to get the fair attention that it deserves, and eventually I'd like to see it come out of that committee and back to the council chambers for a vote.
And what appears to be the holdup? We have a supermajority. What appears to be the holdup?
Well, the supermajority couldn't agree on which committee. The majority of us want it in legislation and codes, but others want it in real estate. And I just don't see the purpose in putting it in real estate when, honestly, the real estate chair, I don't believe he understands what I find to be real affordable housing. We're not on the same page with that, so I don't feel comfortable having him chair that committee, that agenda item in particular.
Who is he?
Oh, John Rubo.
John Rubo is the chair.
I'm sorry.
No, I do, but the audience
Okay.
might not know.
Yes, John Rubo is the chair of real estate.
And you don't feel comfortable that he will represent the true wishes of the people of Yonkers or benefit the people. Is that it?
Correct.
So let's move in and let's see what the people have to say.
Okay.
Real quick, come in a second.
Oh, this?
Okay. Are they gone already?
Yeah, I usually have the little 100 calorie diet. I got regular Coke can. It was a small one. They're pretty healthy, but I try to.
But I'll only drink.
This is like I haven't had a diet since probably last week when I was up here.
I only have and I'll have it out of the fountain. I only drink it out of the fountain when I get
Sweeter.
pizza. Yeah.
It's sweet. I know nothing about any of this stuff. Yeah.
Now if she wasn't ready, he wasn't late. But
Bring it over to leadership. So this wasn't leadership?
no,
Hold on 1 second. That way, I do see that, there are some people, so everyone knows, there'll be no speaking during Rules Committee. These are open meetings, everyone's more than welcome, the door is wide open, but there'll be no public comment when it comes to rules.
Over here, Diana.
So did you know who drinks a lot of Diet Pepsi? Fire commissioner. Yeah? All the time. That's his thing. Yeah. He runs a lot. Yeah, he lives in Douglaston, man. He's always moving around the corner. Yeah, he's a big runner. Big skier, big, he's a lot of stuff, guy. But he definitely went back. It's not, I mean, I can understand that. It's just a talent, but if I were to run to see him right now, the John, he's taking it. He also had a lot of exposure down there, so he's getting tested every 6 months. Yeah, he is. So I know he worries about that. You ever notice too, he's always urinating. Yeah. But he stays I was going to try a decent amount. I got 8 days in a row. I had Sunday, but just no results. But I want to come Same thing. What's up? Yes.
One second, please.
Huh?
Ask you a question one second before we start.
Sure. Oh.
What do you got?
So real quick, the changes that we just discussed.
No, you already adopted them sort of on the record, if you will. I'll change them to circulation. No, Ken.
No public hearing actually.
Yeah.
You got it. All right, so I'll just.
Yeah, we'll have those changes to you tomorrow. So we've got the changes to you.
I know, so I'll hold on, public hearing,
And Bill still don't have to go for it.
There's a fine.
Yeah, you also-
There's a fine and. No, there's a fee.
What about that? I don't know.
You know,
That's why I thought you guys have actually that was a waiting and then Tasha's warning.
Yeah, so it's,
we're gonna start.
let's do it.
All right. Hello, everyone. Uh-oh. Hello, everyone. Today's February 18, 2020. This is City Council Rules Committee. We have full attendance. We'll start with administrative items. Item number 1 is a resolution supporting Senate Bill 7358 and Assembly Bill 6037, an act to amend the local finance law in relation to the mortgage recording tax of the City of Yonkers. I know this is something that needs to be renewed. There's a deadline. Matt, anything you want to add on that?
No, it's just to extend it from August 31st, 2020 to August 31st of 2021.
Okay, item number 1 will be on next week's agenda. Item number 2 is a resolution supporting Senate Bill 7348 and Assembly Bill 6017, an act to amend a local finance law in relation to the sales tax of the City of Yonkers. Again, this is a resolution that needs to be renewed. There's a deadline. Is there anything you want to add on that, Matt?
Just extending it through November 30th of 2021, and yes, we actually have to take care of this.
Okay, item number 2 will be on the agenda. Moving to item number 3 is a resolution approving an IMA, intermunicipal agreement between the City of Yonkers and the County of Westchester to provide an employee assistance program services. This is something good. That's through the HR. I think through caucus we said maybe perhaps have an intergovernmental committee meeting just to bring awareness to the service. Matt, since this is between the County of Westchester, so if there's any questions or services, would it be beneficial to have somebody from the county HR, or will the city HR be able to have the information on this?
Probably the county.
Okay, all right. Mike, we could put it intergovernmental. Majority Leader Breen, we could put it intergovernmental.
I chair the government.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, Chair, put it on. We'll put it on the agenda also. Or
I'm
you-
sorry, you're asking if you want to have a meeting or like,
We'll put it intergovernmental to have a committee meeting to
Right.
raise awareness about the service that's going on.
right?
Barring anything, then, if we could have an intergovernmental meeting prior to the city
Oh,
council
I
meeting.
see, okay.
I do want to point out that
Yes.
this is a continuing IMA. I mean, the last one expired, and so there is currently no IMA in place, and this one is for a term of January 1st, 2020 to December 31st of 2024. That being said, I don't see a problem with us having this committee meeting, but
Prior to
keep
the
that in
city
mind, yes,
council.
and get to move things along.
Okay, so that way, item number 3, there'll be an intergov committee meeting prior to the city council meeting. Item 3 will be on the city council agenda, barring any issues coming out of the committee meeting. Yes, John.
Chair, just, there's flag raising at 5:30, just to keep that in mind for next week, next Tuesday.
Okay, can I open the calendar really quickly?
Yes.
So, and we also have to ensure that someone from the county can make it next week. I mean, if we are comfortable passing this, but we want to bring awareness, I think we can have a meeting post passage.
And then that would, again, just to raise awareness.
Raise
There's nothing,
awareness,
there's
so-
nothing controversial about it. I think this is a good service. There's some good programs
Right.
here for people. Most people don't know that's probably available. Okay,
So I'll try for
so
next week, but if not, then.
you just cancel it and put on the following week. So again, item 3 will be on, subject to scheduling, there'll be a committee meeting on it. Moving on, item number 4 is a resolution authorizing the state of New York to make improvements to Murray Avenue over the Cross County Parkway deck. This is a resolution that, it's a pro forma approval. This is something that's in Minority Leader Breen's district. Like, any issues with this going straight on?
The problem is the state put in a concrete bridge, and the city of Yonkers tries to patch it with asphalt. It doesn't work, so it's time for the state to come and do the bridge over.
Don't feel bad. Councilman Rankin and I had the same with the one-lane bridge, you know, in our business. We'll get done. But any objections, we'll put it on? Okay, item number 4 is on the agenda. Item number 5 is a resolution, resolution extending a per special use permit from 1 year dated December 13, 2019 through December 30th, 2020 for the amendment for the Extell Planned Urban Development PUR special use permit to allow the following temporary uses pending permanent site development at 159 Alexander Street, 35 Babcock Place, and 161 Alexander Street, and 42B Water Grant Street. This will go into real estate, but Matt, anything you could add on this, add context?
Yeah, it's just that the city council must approve the affirmative action of the planning board if such approval has become effective. So until you guys move on this, it's
Okay.
dead on arrival.
So John, that will go into real estate for any questions and such. Sure. Okay. Item number 6 is a special ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a state grant funding from New York State Office of the Aging in the amount of $14,715 and amending the City of Yonkers grant budget for 2019-2020. This is actually, it was for the bands.
North, it's going to North for transportation.
Yes, and that will go straight on the agenda. Okay. Moving to council items. New business, what are we looking at? A general ordinance amending chapter 43 of the Code of City of Yonkers entitled Affordable Housing. This is, yes or no? Yes or no?
Just would like to point out that this is a pretty major piece of legislation. It has been, it wasn't brought up at leadership on Friday. I guess it made it to the noon deadline, but I don't know how this happened, but I wish this had been a topic of discussion at leadership, just so you know what's happening. We'll have to find out later on that this was added to the agenda.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Well, let me just address that, and Mike, I do agree with you that we went in. It came in before the deadline. One thing that I did have a conversation with the majority leader, and it has happened from time to time. You know, it's not a common practice, but in the event if anything comes after anything that comes after leadership, but before the deadline, you know, FYI, this came in between such and such. So you're absolutely correct, as I told Corazon last night. Okay.
I get it. I'm just, something of a major piece of legislation probably should be.
Well, listen. I mean, we're part of leadership. I mean, the substance and the nuts and bolts aren't ironed out in leadership. As you've been going to leadership. It's just as a FYI. Here's what's being. The nuts and bolts are going to be discussed in committee. You know, as with all major legislation. Okay, but now, I just wanted to answer his, Sinead,
No,
please?
thank you.
I just wanted to answer his question,
Yeah.
and then I'll give you the floor, one at a time. Mike, did I answer your question? Okay. Sinead,
Well,
yes.
I also just wanted to add to your point, Mike. I'm the one who actually introduced this after your guys' leadership meeting because I'm not in leadership. I don't know what time you guys meet. So if you want moving forward in the future, if there's something that I think that would be beneficial for you as the minority leader to know, and for the administration to know, I will be more.
A heads up.
Yeah, and I will personally make sure that I get it to you. That's it. That's all I have.
Okay. There was a discussion on to what committee this should go to, either a real estate committee, which is chaired by Councilman Rubo, or legislation and codes meeting, which is chaired by Majority Leader Corazon Pineda-Isaac. And I think there was discussion that we'll just bring it to on what committee it goes to. So the question is not, those are the two options. Legislation and codes, chaired by Corazon, or real estate by John Rubo. right? Yes, go, you want to say this?
Yes, I do, through the chair. I did speak to Councilwoman Williams, who addressed concerns as to why she wants it in the search committee. And I just want to point out that regardless of which committee it goes to, one, the council president has the authority to put it out of committee if for some reason there was some obstruction to be occurring. Two, if it goes to passes to be put in real estate, the chair, the sponsor of this bill, also is in that committee. She is not in legislation and codes. So I thought also that it would be good for the person who sponsored it to be able to be a voting member in the committee from the start to the very end. And three council members, myself, yourself, and Ms. Williams are also on that committee. So the conversations continue and the advocacy for this piece of legislation will continue. And really the process, this is just the very early stages, and where it goes, it really doesn't prohibit how this moves forward.
Through the chair,
Yes, Sinead.
I respectfully disagree that where it goes, it doesn't really matter. It does matter. I'm fully aware that I'm not a voting member of Legislation and Codes Committee, but I'm also fully aware that the three folks, yourself, Majority Leader, the Council President, and Tasha Diaz are in support of real affordable housing and making sure that we get more affordable units to Yonkers, and that is why I am more comfortable putting it in this legislation, which is Legislation and Codes. Also, it is directly changing a current ordinance, so it makes sense to put it in Legislation and Codes. While it does affect real estate, and it will affect a lot of people, you can make an argument that it could go in a lot of different committees, to be quite honest. But the point is, even though I do sit on real estate committee, I know the relationship that I have with the chair of that committee. And I know that politics, unfortunately, sometimes get in the way of getting real things done for the residents of Yonkers. And I am not interested in putting this very important legislation, like the minority leader said, in a committee, taking a chance of making sure that that's not going to get the attention that it needs. And that is why I'm advocating, and I'm very, very serious about this, that this should go in Legislation and Codes. And we can vote on it and let that be, but that's just how I feel. Thank you.
Does anyone, Don?
Thank you. Through the chair. I have, as real estate chair, I have no intention of seeing probably one of the most important pieces of legislation that we're going to pass be held up. And I'm committed to seeing change to our affordable housing ordinance. And as chair, if this gets put into real estate committee, I will bring stakeholders from every component of affordable housing to the table so that they can speak at committee meetings, and we will have meetings every week if everyone's schedules permit. And this is something that's very important. So it's not something that I'm going to let die in a committee. It's important to the residents of the west side, the east side, and so on and so forth. So that's my commitment to my colleagues on the council.
I appreciate, through the chair, can I speak? Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. I don't want to do that, but I
don't want to give everyone a chance.
Okay.
Is there anyone that wants to talk on this issue? Sinead, I just want to give everyone a chance before.
That's fine.
Yes.
Yes, I would like to talk on this issue because I don't understand why it would not go into legislation and codes. Yes, it is something to do with real estate, but moving forward, if you look at the description, the code of the city of Yonkers, it needs to go into legislations and codes. And quite frankly, it really affects districts 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so I don't understand why you as the legislation and codes would not want to jump on this and take this full on. I don't understand what's the pushback. Why do you want to push it somewhere else when it can very well sit right with you in legislation and codes and have us address it accordingly?
Through the chair, I know you wanted to let everyone else speak. Can I address?
Yeah, since, yes.
Okay, so the reason I believe that real estate is an appropriate committee, because I do believe that it directly impacts development. I also believe that when we start off any piece of legislation, we start at 7. So when when we're saying we don't want to put this in a certain committee because of these concerns that seem political, right away we're saying we're not starting at 7. And I think that that is a disservice to the body and to the process. So what I want to do is give the opportunity for this to be in real estate, for this to be done accordingly, to bring everyone to the table, and for this to truly really get passed and go through.
I don't agree with that. You're putting the cart before the horse.
Okay?
If it's if it's a code that we are trying to change in an ordinance, it needs to go into legislation and codes. And then if you want to take that somewhere else after, I agree with that. But first and foremost, it needs to go in legislations and codes. And you, if you say you're for affordable housing, as you say you do, you should be pushing for this to go into legislation and codes and not pushing back.
And through the chair, my actions
Last comment.
and will show that I am truly for affordable housing, and
Prove it.
that's it. And it will be proven through the process of this.
Prove it.
regardless.
I do, okay, Sinead, you want to say that's it? And if
Yes,
there's
no,
other
I was just
comments,
going to
I'm
say, in response to Councilman Rubo's comments about how he will have meetings and not try to let it die in committee, I appreciate you saying that. But I would also like to point out that there was a time this year where there was a real estate issue dealing with my community, my district, and I pleaded to you as chair of real estate not to move that item out of committee, yet you still moved it out. Still ignoring the people of the district, giving them the real opportunity to have the necessary conversations with the stakeholders that needed to happen. And I don't trust that you will take this matter seriously when we come before you as chair of real estate, and that is the main reason why I'm pushing for this to go in the correct committee of legislation and codes. And we can still do all those lovely things and have all the meetings and, as many meetings as possible in legislation and codes. So that's just all I have to say. But I'd like to just ask that we just do the roll call now and just be done with
through
it.
the chair, just to respond, and this is my
Last
last
comment.
comment. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. The issue that came out of committee at the last real estate meeting that you're referring to was voted on by 3 members that decided that it was time to stop delaying that affordable housing zoning change and to bring it out to fruition. And let's see that project move ahead. Affordable housing,
Who were those
150
3 members?
units,
You,
150
Corazon,
units of
and who else?
affordable
And the
housing.
Republicans?
So it was decided that by a majority members of that committee to take it out and start moving it forward.
I don't remember
That-
doing a roll call for that, but you just took it up
That-
on yourself to move it out anyway. But
Through
that's
the
beside
chair.
the point.
John,
Let's keep it moving.
So we moved it ahead. It was voted on, and we're moving ahead with affordable housing on that project. It was not delayed, right?
Because
So,
I had thank God I have a good
Thank you,
relationship
Chair.
with the mayor to make sure that we were still able to do what we needed to do in the time frame, the short time frame that we had.
Okay.
Thank you,
So
Chair.
let's be
Okay,
clear
thank you.
about that.
Thank you.
Okay, let's continue. Okay, procedurally, as the chair of the Rules Committee, I'll make my determination, and then whoever objects, there could be a motion for a roll call. It's my belief that it should belong into legislation and codes. When I introduced this in our first legislative term, it went into legislation and codes. And Corazon, no, procedurally, it went into legislation and codes, and the chair of that legislation and codes, Sinead, and you discussed it offline, and there was a mutual understanding. But at the rules meeting, procedurally what happened, the legislation went into legislation and codes, and then, which was healthy, which unfortunately is not here right now, there was conversations where there was a mutual understanding to have a joint meeting. Perhaps that could happen down the road. The floor, you stretching or you want to say something?
I'm calling for a motion for
Okay.
a roll call.
Okay, I'm putting it in legislation and codes. The motion is to overrule that and put it in another committee. Yes, yes.
Can I speak to you about that now?
Mark, advise your client.
I don't think that's there's going to be a motion. I don't think you can put it
Yeah, I'll get the second.
Motion to, a motion, either way, once put it in one committee, others, if you vote on a motion, vote on vote, motion, second, then vote.
And then it goes on. So what you're gonna do, Mike, is, or whomever, legislate, you're gonna make a motion, and then,
A motion to put it in a committee.
correct, not the committee that I chose.
Right, okay, I'm making a motion to put it in real estate.
Okay, hold on. But I have to first say, it goes into legislation and codes. Now I think you have a motion.
Yes. Motion to put it
What
in
is your
real
motion?
estate. Motion to put it into real estate.
Is there a second on the minority leader's motion to put it in real estate? Seconded by majority leader Corazon Pineda-Isaac, and we'll do roll call. I'll start first, legislation and codes.
Well, the motion,
No, the motion.
You vote for it's the motion. You vote
So it's a yes or no.
Yes or no?
You have to- right. You have to choose one.
Legislation and codes.
Say no
Wait,
to
wait.
real estate.
So the motion is,
Motion
to
is
put it into real estate.
Motion is put it into real estate.
Put it in
Real
real
estate.
estate, so if you disagree with that, you have to vote no. Or if you
Okay,
agree, you vote yes.
I did it reverse. No.
Yes.
No.
Nope.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Motion passes 4-3. Goes into real estate.
So the motion just passed.
Number 2 is a resolution urging the House Representative Elliot Engel to support House Bill H.R. 2214 entitled the National Origin-Based Anti-Discrimination for Non-Immigration Act, or No Ban Act, rescinding Executive Order 13769 entitled Protection of the Nation and Foreign Terrorist Entry to the United States, Executive Order 1378, and all successor bills. This pretty much, there was a bill that came out of Congress, out of the Judiciary Committee. It's coming to the House floor. It's about repealing the No Ban Act. I would like to put this in a committee meeting chaired by the community meeting.